Hi guys, welcome to the channel and welcome to this tutorial of how to power wing in just 10 minutes. So the more observant of you will notice that I have a dirty slug above my upper lip, the beginning of a moustache for Movember. I'm raising money for mental health and suicide prevention for men. It's a charity that's really close to my heart, and there is a link in the description below where you can donate directly via my page. Please dig deep, really means a lot. And yeah, I hope you have a good laugh at how stupid I look. Look, imagine if you will, a downwinding on a small board with a surf foil and really steep chop, doing turn after turn, carve after carve. Look, this is the world of power winging. And if you stick around, I'm going to tell you how to get into it as quickly as possible and avoiding all the pitfalls that I made along the way. As with always, please like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me do more content like this. And if you got any questions, please don't hesitate to write in and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right, let's get straight into it. So to begin with, I want to talk about some skill sets that I think are really important before you start your power wing journey. So the first obvious one is that you should be able to foil competently. Secondly, I think being able to wing and being able to kite, again, is a huge advantage. Understanding what the wind's doing, where to position the power wing and how to control it. That all will help. It's not the be all and end all for sure, but it certainly will give you an advantage. The third one is actually being able to downwind. If you have already gone through the downwind journey, this will become so much easier. The tricky part is that you've got to pack the wing away whilst riding bumps, and that is a skill within itself. And lastly, wearing a harness. Look, this is a bit of a contentious subject. Some guys are really anti a harness, but I have to say, using a harness to go upwind with a power wing is vital. It allows you to fine tune it so that you don't constantly have to depower it. You can lean into the wing and really hold onto that power and almost edge with the foil. You won't be able to do that unless you have a harness. So you've got to go through the pain, learn how to use a harness. I think it's really important. So next, I want to talk about sizes. Which size should you buy? Look, this is a bit of a challenging one because when you first start off, you want to be going out in pretty much all conditions. If you get a 5 meter, you're going to find it hard work. Really, you want to have a 4 meter, which is the right balance of being able to pack it away, good control and enough power. My advice would be to size up your board and your foil and keep the power wing relatively small. The bigger the power wing, the harder it is to turn, to tack, to jibe, you name it. It all becomes very challenging with that extra canopy. Also, the conditions are really important. You don't want to be going out in anything less than 15 knots when you're starting. Really make that a hard and fast rule because it becomes incredibly frustrating and you won't learn anything. Okay, so let's talk about gear. So the end state, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is to be on a small board, a surfy foil and really steep waves. Now, if you start off on that equipment, you're gonna really struggle. So what we wanna do is start on something big. It's a very similar concept to when you were learning to wing foil. You wanna start on something big and efficient. So I use my downwind board and that worked perfectly. And in fact, I still use it today if the conditions are really light. So as I alluded to earlier, you probably want to keep the wing as a constant and change your gear depending on the conditions. So board up, board down, fall up, fall down. So when the conditions are light, I'm jumping on my downwind performance board, the Big Bertha, the 8'11". Look, this thing is so efficient. It gets up in anything. So it gives me that peace of mind that I know that I can get the 5 meter up in about 10 knots, which is actually quite impressive considering where I started from. In terms of foils, when it's light, I'm either using the Downwind Performance 930 or I'm going to the HA at 1080 or 1180. Once you become efficient, that's when the magic happens and you can jump on the mid-length. So I use the Armstrong mid-length, the 6'1", which is 75 liters. For my 80 kilos, it's perfect. It allows me to still get up in relatively light conditions. I can bounce it off the water. We'll talk about the technique in a minute. But the beauty of it is riding a small board with an efficient foil is just incredible. Okay, so let's talk about the basics of flying the wing. It's really important you spend some time understanding the power wing on the beach. Make sure you put an emphasis on the pack away so that it becomes a muscle memory. I have come up with a way of doing it where I always use the same hand to draw it away, and it always works. When I change it up is when it tends to go wrong. So come up with a system and never deviate from it. Okay, so once you're comfortable, we're gonna start going on the water. The first thing you're gonna have to do is launch it and get it flying. One of the techniques that I found works really well is to hold on to the harness line with one hand, bring the kite up so it's exposed to the wind, and then throw it. Once the lines go taut, it will automatically shoot up above your head and start flying. And I found this the best way of launching in pretty much all conditions. The only caveat to that is if it's absolutely howling, obviously that can jolt your arm, so I probably wouldn't advise that relaunch from the water. So the technique of getting up, well, you'll be straddling your board initially with the Parawing in one hand, and the challenge, you need to get up onto your knees just using one hand. That can be quite challenging. What I do is swing my legs behind my butt, and then that allows me to get up onto my knees without using two hands. Once you're on your knees, it's relatively easy. You can put your front foot next to your hand and then stand up using the Parawing to assist you. Getting up onto foil is all about pumping the board up onto foil, not pumping the Parawing like you would with winging. Yes, you can have one or two little power strokes with the Parawing, but the majority of the work happens with the board, pumping the board off the water. Okay, so let's talk about maneuvers now. The first one you're going to be doing is the jibe. That's the first turn, and actually it's relatively easy. In fact, the more wind, the easier it is. It becomes a challenge when the wind is light. So the first thing I'm going to do is the foot change, which we talked about. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but it's really important you get balanced and stable and change your foot so that you are in your regular stance to do the turn. Once I'm there and I'm established, I want to stay quite close to the wind. If you start drifting downwind too much, you're going to lose all apparent wind in the Parawing, and it will drift down into the wind window and become quite difficult to maneuver. It's all about trimming it so that you've got the right balance of power and keeping it far forward in the wind window. So what I do now is change hands, so I have the Parawing in my outside hand or the hand closest to the wind, and I then aim to turn inside the Parawing. You want to turn the Parawing so that it matches the turn of the board. Basically, it wants to be pointing wherever the nose is pointing and does that 180 nice and quick. It will then be in the power zone and come out and follow you nice and efficiently. The issues that I've had with it is if I go downwind for too long, you lose all power in the Parawing, and particularly in the bigger sizes, it then becomes a mess because you run into the Parawing. So it's all about turning quickly and then getting the Parawing flipped over onto the new side nice and early. As with everything, it's about timing and it's about practice. Okay, so the next skill you need to master is going upwind, because this is where you're going to spend a lot of your time, and the more efficient you are going upwind, the more fun you're going to have going downwind on the other side. So the key to it is trimming. You have to trim the wing. If you just constantly just depower it, it's going to flutter and it's going to create a lot of drag, and you're just going to go downwind. You're not going to be efficient. So the key to it is to lean into the wing and control that power with your body weight. And the only way you can do that really, as I mentioned, is with a harness. Even with the harness in, I'm constantly trimming the bar to make it so it's just about fluttering. You want it as far forward in the wind window as possible. Lean back in, control the power with your body weight, and then look upwind. Your whole upper body needs to be pointing in the direction you want to go, twisting your feet. You also want to be edging against the foil as much as possible, putting pressure on against it. Okay, so lastly, I want to talk about the pack away, which is arguably the most important skill to learn. So the key to it is to be on your normal stance, whether that's regular or goofy, so that you're in real nice control. You then turn downwind, and the moment that the Parawing starts going light, I slide my backhand down to the rear lines. It's really important that you pull it all the way so that your hand is touching the canopy material. So once I'm in that position, I then pause and I concentrate on riding the bumps. So the next thing I do is get the bar and put it under my arm, and then I start the scrunching process of the wing itself. And the way in which I do it is start from the top and work my way down. Halfway through this, I will gather the remaining lines and put that into the scrunch, and then continue working all of the air out of the Parawing. Again, at that point, I'll probably stop, pause, and then concentrate on downwinding again. And then once I'm comfortable, I'll then bring the bar to the packet itself and then start packing it away into the bag. I think the key to it is to keep on having pause moments, concentrating on one thing at a time, whether that's the downwinding or the packing away. It's all about prioritization. Now, once it's away, trust me, this is where the magic happens. It's such an incredible feeling, and I encourage anybody to please go out there and give it a go. It's worth all the pain and the hard work for that first moment when you've packed it away and you're starting to ride bumps downwind with nothing in your hands. It's really quite special. Okay, so that's really it in a nutshell. Look, this is an incredible new discipline. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope that you go out and practice yourselves. It's a new part of our sport. It's a new discipline. Go out and be a trailblazer. Go out and be a first adopter, and please post all of your experiences. I'm really excited to see where this discipline goes. I can't wait for all the new products to come out next year. I think it's going to be a really exciting time for our sport. Like with always, please type in the comments below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you on the water again soon.